Ro Khanna of California, Republican Mike Lawler of New York. And I do have to say, Lawler does not pop on Quiver Quantitative or on Unusual Whales. You do, Ro Khanna. You're top 30. Let's talk about this quickly, about the chance that it actually gets done and why it needs to. Mike, I'll start with you because you've obviously been conscientious about it already.
Look, I fundamentally believe we are all elected to serve for however long that our constituents choose to have us here. I do believe in term limits, but I also believe in banning stock trading. The fact is, this is a service. The focus should be on doing the job, serving your constituents, and not making money while in this capacity. If you want to make money, as you said at the top of the show, then go do that. Leave, and that's fine. But the fact is that this is a serious job that actually provides you with a great deal of information, especially when you're talking about the stock market, businesses, tax policy, energy policy, et cetera. And ultimately, I think it's imperative for all of us to, at the very minimum, ensure that people have trust in the system, that the appearance of impropriety is not there, and that the actual impropriety is not there. And so that is why I co-sponsored that legislation last Congress and this Congress, and believe it should come to the floor for a vote.
Hey, Ro, do you think you guys can get it done? Or do you think this sympathy for you guys having to have, a redundant lifestyle is going to keep this from passing? Or do you think there's enough public energy behind it now?
I think there's enough energy. It's something that I completely agree with Representative Lawler. And look, I don't trade stocks. My wife doesn't trade stocks. She inherited money and she put it in a trust. It's a diversified trust. The Trust Act simply says ban stock trading. And if you have wealth, as she did, you put it in a diversified trust that eliminates conflicts. That's what people do in the oversight hearing, in the executive branch. And you still be transparent of what's there. But then people know that it's actually in a diversified trust and it's not you calling up a financial advisor. So I think the Trust Act in particular is very well crafted. And just let's get a vote on that.
First of all, I love you guys standing next to each other, by the way. I love it. California and New York, Republican and Democrat. I know it's not a big deal to you guys. It is such a big deal to my audience. I got to tell you, it's the #1 thing people like about my show. I'm just telling you, thank you for doing it. I appreciate it. You'd be shocked how many of the brothers and sisters won't do it, by the way. All right, now let's talk about something that doesn't make as much sense. I want to play Tom Suozzi. He's from New York, like Lawler. He's out on Long Island. He's back in Congress. And he was trying to prove that the Republicans aren't doing what the president said they would do in the budget bill. I want to play what he did, and then I want you, Mike, to talk to me about whether or not it's a gotcha. And, Ro, what do you think the reality is going to be with the budget bill on this point? Play Suozzi's clip.
The president has said, your tips will be 100% yours. Does this tax bill continue the payroll tax on people's tips?
Yes, it does, Mr.
Overtime. The president said your overtime will be tax-free. Does this bill continue the payroll tax on overtime?
It does not exempt overtime from the payroll tax.
The president said he's going to remove taxes on Social Security. Does this bill remove taxes on Social Security benefits?
The legislation provides an increased exemption amount.
But does it remove taxes on Social Security benefits as promised by the president?
Does not change.
Now, there's a yeah but on all this stuff. But, Mike, it's not the clean kill that we were told it was going to be. Are you okay with that?
Well, first of all, just on the issue of Social Security, legally it cannot be adjusted in reconciliation. But on the issue of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, obviously the tax code is extremely complex, and how things are dealt with within the tax code varies based on the instance that you're dealing with. Ultimately, the objective is to provide people with a tax benefit here and make sure that they are not getting taxed on tips or overtime. That would be through over 4 years in the bill. You look at the issue that I'm most closely fighting on right now is salt and lifting the cap on salt. Obviously, people pay their state and local taxes up front, and we're trying to accrue a benefit on the back end to make sure that they're not being double taxed on their federal income tax return. The layers here obviously are complex, but I think the president's agenda and what he is trying to accomplish and the promises that he made ring true in terms of how they are being addressed within the general framework of this tax bill, though there's still some work to do.
Ro, what's your take on what the promise was, what the delivery is, and what the space is for Democrats to do better?
Look, I have a pretty simple take on things. If the president's doing something that I think is going to help the American people, I support it. And where he's doing things that aren't going to help, I oppose it. On the effort of trying to get rid of taxes on tips and taxes on overtime, that's a good idea. And yeah, you can't do the whole thing, fine, but make some progress on it. In fact, today I introduced a bill basically codifying his executive order to require Americans to pay less on prescription drugs, as little as people pay in other countries. I thought that was a great idea. I'm the person who's trying to codify it. I'm hoping other Republicans will join in, and we've had constructive conversations. Where I vehemently disagree is on the Medicaid cuts. I mean, it's a $600 billion cut, and we can get back and forth on what that cut is, but that is really going to hurt hospitals and services. Don't take my word for it. All I say to folks is please read Josh Hawley's op-ed in the New York Times. You'll take his word for it.
So just
Mike,
to that end.
Go ahead. I want to talk about that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to that end, to the point that I've made repeatedly throughout this process, I will not support cuts to eligible beneficiaries in any way. And so as we have worked through this, I and others have been able to fight back against any effort to lower the FMAP floor, enact per capita caps, enact block grants, dish cuts, or any major changes that would directly impact eligible recipients. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't problems with the program. Over the next 10 years, we're talking about spending $86 trillion. In this budget reconciliation bill, we're talking about $1.5 trillion in savings. That's 1.7% of the total spend. So when you talk about some of the changes to Medicaid, number one, eligibility requirements, making sure that people are not staying on the program that are no longer eligible, speeding it up from an annual basis to a semi-annual basis. Number two, citizenship verification, making sure that illegal immigrants are not collecting Medicaid benefits. In New York, $1.2 billion are being spent on this. Number three, work requirements, making sure that able-bodied adults on the expansion population who do not have dependent children are trying to work a total of 80 hours a month. Whether it's work, whether it's going to school, whether it's volunteering, some level of engagement to receive a benefit. Medicaid is a means-tested program. It is not meant to be there for life. Unless you really need it, if you're in the IDD community, seniors, children, single mothers, but that is the traditional Medicaid population. We're talking about the expansion population and making sure that people are working as part of receiving this care.
Chris, if I could just say something. And look,
yeah, go ahead.
I agree Mike helped kill more extreme versions where they wanted to cut even more. And I'm glad he killed the most extreme versions. But if you read Josh Hawley's op-ed that came out criticizing the House Republican budget, it says this is the largest cut in the Medicaid program. And the one thing he didn't talk about is they're going to cut $600 billion by freezing the provider tax. Basically, the states charge a tax to hospitals that then the federal government reimburses them for. It's $600 billion. They're not going to have that money, and they should just be honest about
That's
it.
not
Like
$600 billion
that's
on the
CBO,
tax?
the
No.
Congressional Budget Office.
Look.
The Congressional Budget Office said that. Josh Hawley said that, and this is going to. If you read Hawley's op-ed, I didn't interrupt you. If you read Hawley's op-ed, he says it's going to close rural hospitals. It's going to lead to less services in physical therapy and mental health. He talked about a mom whose daughter relies on feeding tubes, and he said it's going to be a calamity for that family. And I hope every conservative, unless you don't think Josh Hawley's conservative, Josh Hawley's honest. He's telling you what the cuts are going to be.
Well, he did say, Mike, that he doesn't think the president's going to sign this because of these kinds of moves. Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
No, and we have continually been working through all of these issues. The bill is not final. I and others continue to have discussions with leadership with respect to some of the concerns around Medicaid. The provider tax, one of the changes that was talked about was changing it from 6% to 5%. I and others blocked that from happening. But putting a moratorium in place on a new provider taxes, the provider tax is a revenue enhancement for these states to get more money to pay towards Medicaid. That is what they've been doing for over 40 years, using a provider tax. New York and California, for instance, under the Biden administration, added an MCO tax, which was a new way to generate more revenue. These are some of the things that we're working through. I and others have been pushing back to make sure that people are not losing their benefits, but that doesn't mean that there aren't serious reforms that have to be made.
Yeah, I hear you.
Especially when you're talking about, as I did, the fact that $1.2 billion is spent in New York on illegal
Listen, I'm with you. I just wish that instead of talking about Medicaid, we were talking about the Department of Defense. I wish you guys would go through it and see what is as necessary.
The Department of Defense needs a complete overhaul. It needs
I know, but why not start there?
No question.
Why not start there? It's so much less vital.
By the way, that's what the Department of Government Efficiency is going through. That I definitely believe during.
I just don't know why it wasn't first. That's all I'm saying.
Fiscal year 26, there will be a big opportunity.
They've increased. I said to Elon, cut defense. They've added $150 billion to defense. First time it's over $1 trillion on the defense budget.
There are immediate issues that need to be dealt with in the Defense Department, which was allowed to dither under Joe Biden. You have to be able to have a strong national defense over the long haul this year and through the appropriations process and rescissions. We will be able to make significant reforms.
I'm with
and
you.
Cuts
I'm with you. I'm just saying they haven't even recommended. Mike, all I'm saying is nothing's gotten lighter treatment from DOJ than the DOD, and they're the only ones that fails every time anybody does an accounting of the place. And I get that we need a strong defense. I've been with the fighting men and women. They've kept me alive in theater. I know what they do. But the idea that, we're in some crisis point with our spending on defense,